This episode of Sauna Talk brings together a thoughtful and eclectic panel of doctors who sauna for a grounded conversation on heat, health, and the real role of sauna in modern life. The four doctors came from a long ways away to sit down together for this roundtable chat at Sauna Days, Larchmont Cottages, Two Harbors, Minnesota, USA in 2025, early May. I introduced our MC, Dr. Jeremiah Eisenchenk, who is joined alongside Dr. Brennan Dotson, Dr. Brittany Kimball, and Dr. Ashley Mason. You're about to listen to a lively discussion on what we know and what we don't know, and why sauna continues to matter for both personal well-being and community connection. So this conversation explores cardiovascular health and the most cited sauna studies, sleep, mood, depression, stress reduction, and mental health, sauna and respiratory health, recovery, inflammation, and everyday wellness, detox claims, hydration, and where the evidence stands, the difference between lived sauna experience and overhyped wellness marketing, and why more rigorous sauna research is very much needed. What makes this episode special to me is the balance, a medical perspective with personal experience, Finnish America, sauna tradition, and a shared respect for sauna as both a practice and a place. It was a sunny late spring morning and recorded this episode with a full Sauna Days crowd in the lake room at Larchmont Cottages. This conversation explores the exciting future of more credible research and why people keep returning to sauna for clarity, healing, friendship, and that feeling that can't even begin to be measured by such banal yardsticks as social media likes or the length of a white line laid out on a mirror. A final note, if you are a doctor who saunas, or if you know of a doctor who saunas, we'd love to hear from you. Our panel of doctors who sauna is growing, and it is exciting to learn through the lens of their stethoscopes how this place we go, the sauna, and this thing we do, sauna, can help contribute to a healthier, happier life. To get in contact, please visit Substack and click on the Sauna Times Substack and send me a note right there about a doctor you know, or a doctor you are, or a doctor you're familiar with who enjoys sauna. So without further ado, super happy to bring you this very special episode of Four Doctors Who Sauna. If you've ever wondered what it really feels like to build, fire, and live with a sauna, not the glossy brochure version, but the real deal, you're going to want to check out the Sauna Times YouTube channel. This is where we go beyond the written word. You'll come along with me into such places as backyards, cabins, and wood-fired sauna builds, hearing the crackle of the fire, seeing the steam rise, and learning what works and what doesn't from real experience. I share decades of hands-on sauna practice. Everything from how to build your own sauna to dialing in your hot-cold cycles to the deeper rhythms of sauna bathing that connect us to something pretty fundamental. If you're serious about sauna or even just curious where to begin, clicking around the Sauna Times YouTube channel may be just what your sauna doctor ordered. And one more thing, like many of you, I've been a sauna nut for decades, so you'll get some long in the tooth, unfiltered, unscripted, not so much designed for prime time, straight up content. Interested? Head over to YouTube and search Sauna Times and subscribe. I'd love for you to join our community. Thanks so much. I'm Glenn. Welcome to Sauna Days. How many have been to, well, Dr. E, how many Sauna Days have you been to?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. This is my first time here with my family. I told them I wouldn't make them a wave, but I'm going to anyway. Girls?
So three,
right there. Come on, right there. Third row. Thanks. That's right.
How many have been to more than 3 Sauna Days? Dan? Good,
right.
good. So I'll tell you a quick story. So doctors, this is Doctors Who Sauna, and my uncle is still practicing, if you can believe it. He's 94 years old. He's practicing in his own mind, and he's been my primary care physician my whole life. And so my connection to doctors is very, very close, very intimate. And so I love the commitment that doctors have toward helping people live happier, healthy lives, and the connection between their dedication and sauna is quite obvious. And there's so much talk about sauna and health and wellness benefits, and who better really to give their perspectives than Doctors Who Sauna. So it was born organically, and a panelist up here who will introduce himself was hired me to be a client for your sauna build, right? When was that?
2 years ago.
Yeah, it's about 2 years ago. I do consults, and I get this email, and I'm walking through the consultation from our lake cabin on Lake Vermilion, which is on an island, which is 30 miles from the nearest Walgreens and stuff. And I have the worst swimmer's ear from sauning like crazy. And as serendipity would have it, I looked at the bottom of Dr. Dobson's email, and it says ear, nose, and throat. I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. So he's coming to me for help. So I pull this little judo move on him and say, hey, what do you suggest for swimmer's ear? Within 5 minutes, I have a prescription for an antibiotic, and my wife Julia is down in Virginia, Minnesota, 30 miles away, picking it up. I got great health care without leaving my doc. That was the impetus for Doctors Who Sauna, and it wouldn't happen without Dr. E, and I just wanted to give this introduction. Thank you, panelists. Dr. E, take it over.
All right. Are we good on the back? Awesome. Yeah, so my name is Jeremiah Eisenchenk. I go by Maya. I'm a family medicine trained physician. I live in Cross Lake, which is about 3 hours to the west of here. I practice for Eisenchenk Health. If you all drove through Duluth, you saw a massive shiny silver structure that looked kind of like a boat. That was the intention. It's the new hospital, St. Mary's, in downtown Duluth. So our system is headquartered there. We're in North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and I practice obesity medicine. I lead the systems team for that, the 12 clinics that we have, as well as hospital medicine. So I get to kind of wear both hats still. The acute care hat, seeing people that are really ill in the hospital, usually with the acute manifestations of chronic metabolic disease, right? Strokes, heart attacks, cancers. That's what keeps us busy and keeps, unfortunately, humans suffering. As well as in the clinic, I get to look upstream and ask, what's the root cause of these chronic illnesses? How can we attend to the roots of the tree, if you will, and help reverse some of them? Through all of this, and particularly through COVID, sauna was my grounding mechanism for all things. As we all know, it's really hard to be on your phone. You shouldn't be on a sauna, or even to move. There's like an inherent stillness that comes with being in the sauna. So that was really key to my well-being through COVID. It's something that I've hoped to bring to my community in Cross Lake, and I'm grateful to have connected with Glenn in the last few years. And this is just kind of like our de novo conversations coming to fruition to bring some other like-minded individuals to the space. And I'll have some templated, really common questions that are probably top of mind for you all. And then we'll have time. Glenn's going to Q&A it at the end with the mic. So, we'll move to my right here. So this is Brandon Dotson from Bozeman, Montana. Came here with his son. Your name again? Bodie, awesome. And an ENT doc. And I'll let you kind of add a little bit more about yourself.
We moved to Bozeman about 19 years ago, opened a solo practice. Been in practice there since then, and raised a family, and it's been awesome. So I'm not sure who benefited more from the exchange of trade negotiations between me and Glenn. So I think I came out ahead. But I guess my interest in sauna was I always need a project. So, and building one was kind of like my project that year. So I don't know, I just like learning new things, so I've always been interested in different things, like to keep me occupied outside of my routine, because, as interesting as my job is, it gets pretty boring sometimes. So, I just like exploring new things and learning about, I was an anthropology major in undergrad, so I like learning about cultures and that kind of stuff. So it was just kind of natural. But Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And next we have Brittany Kimball. Brittany comes to us from Rochester, Minnesota. She is a hematology oncology fellow. Remind me, med peds?
Med peds trained, but I'm an adult hemonc fellow.
Adult hemonc, awesome. And you have your own pretty special story to, your pathway in your career, right?
Yeah. So my particular interest is in adolescent and young adult hemonc, meaning that I do cancer care and blood diseases. I trained in internal medicine and pediatrics with the goal of really taking care of young people who don't quite fit into either pediatrics or adult medicine, but have been diagnosed with a life-changing disease, cancer. And that really is born out of my own experience. When I was 18, I had Hodgkin lymphoma, and I was treated with chemotherapy and kind of had to learn after that how to re-navigate life after all of that. And so that is really what informed my subsequent path. And also, I have a long history of using sauna, so I think part of the reason I'm here is I've been going to sauna since I was a toddler. On a bottom bench, I'm Finnish American, and sauna is really part of like the fabric of my culture, my family's culture, and the way I've grown up, and it's been an important part of my own healing experience. And so I come to this really more from lived experience than anything else.
Excellent, thank you. And then finally, Ashley Mason from UCSF, that's San Francisco, in insomnia research focus. Particularly interested, and hopefully we can talk a little bit, Ashley, downstream here about maybe some of the impact of whole body hyperthermia on mood and sleep. Why don't you tell us a little more about yourself?
Sure. Yes. Hi, I'm Ashley Mason. I don't really need that. I have a very loud voice. I'm from the University of California, San Francisco. I'm a professor in the School of Medicine there. I have a heat therapy lab, and my research focus is principally on the treatment of depression and insomnia without using drugs. My focus is on the association between body temperature and mental health states, and it's actually a very old literature that goes back to the 70s and 80s, and of course it's pretty robust, but no one picked it up because no one's going to make any money off of it in pharma. So I have a lab at UCSF where we do heat people, and we heat people with depression, and we heat people with insomnia at home. And I do also have a clinic where I treat people with insomnia on the side, because I really like doing that, but my primary focus is on research. And I have a little bit of an opposite story. I've come to heat treatment probably much later in my life. I was in my mid-30s when I became kind of sauna obsessed, and just loving it.
Excellent. Are we good on the picking up without the mic still for the podcast?
Yeah.
It is. It'll pick it up.
A little mic action is helpful.
I can scream into
Okay.
it.
Sounded good. They sounded great. I appreciate it.
So before we get into some of the medical questions, I thought we'd just also toss our mics back and forth here about kind of the why behind why, we're here at Sauna Days, and also just to have the audience get to know us a little bit what our favorite sauna ritual is or practice. I'll start. I already shared this. Came at this a few years ago. Met Glenn and just a lot of kindred spirits. Justin from Cedar and Stone, Darren, others. You feel like after coming here for a few years, you kind of, these are our people, right? This is like a big family of many sorts. I think my favorite sauna ritual is just as much as I can, just pure darkness. The dark night sky, coming out for the cold intermittently in the lake, seeing the stars, maybe some satellites. And then back just to some breath work and some meditative mantras that I use. That's really grounding. So, yeah. Brennan, what's your why behind coming here?
I guess at first, I would say, like, my first thing was building it, and then, like, walking into it and, like, looking at it and remembering what I did and how I screwed up or, whatever. But just, when you experience that it becomes kind of like a living thing after a bit. But for me personally, I kind of go back between like complete silence and like now I'm kind of into like Tibetan, like Buddhist, just like chanting and stuff like that. But I've got my sauna's got a big window on it, I know it's like a no-no, but I have to have a window. Like I can't just be in a box. So I've got like a 3 by 3 foot window, and it looks out to the Bridgers in the open space north of my house. So, and it's super pretty in the winter with the snow and the moon and stuff. But yeah, so I got to have the nature part.
Yeah.
I got to be connected to that. So
Awesome.
So I'm at Sauna Days because I came last year, and it was just an amazing community, and I just met a lot of great people. But I come at this from a whole, this is a part of my family culture. So in addition to having started doing this when I was just a little kid, my mom went to sauna. She grew up in Esko, Minnesota. My grandpa spoke Finnish as his first language, and she would go every Saturday night to her grandma Ida's house for sauna with the whole family. And afterwards, she would make pulla that they would fry up, that they called biskiti poikas, which is like the most Finnish American name. And so it's just kind of always part of our family. And as I grew up, I ended up working at a Finnish language summer camp, CLV. I know there's other CLV people here today. And so that was continued to be part of how I got to introduce young people to sauna at Finnish camp. And then I was an exchange student in Finland, and I started saunaing every single day. And now I'm a member of 612 Sauna Society, and I also sauna in Rochester where I live. And so for me, sauna has become a really big community of people, which is also why I'm here with all of you. So thank you for being that community. So I guess my favorite ritual is really to be in community in sauna. And one of those times was for my husband's here for our wedding night. It ended with we got married at my grandparents' cabin in Mackinac, Minnesota, which is where I grew up doing sauna. And it's the sauna right on the lake. It's grandfathered in right there. And so after saying our vows right along the lake with all of our friends and family, we all had a sauna at the end of the night and jumped in the lake and looked at the stars. So that's my favorite.
That's amazing.
I think I'm going to out myself as a huge nerd right now. I fell in love with a graph in 2016, and it was a beautiful. It was like, you don't see graphs like this. I mean, this was a graph that showed two lines, and I wish I could kind of show it here. I'm sure we'll talk about it this afternoon when we nerd out even more with Eric. But it was a graph, and there were two lines, and they had taken 33 people with depression, and they'd given half of them a very intense heat treatment. I'm not going to call it sauna. Also, I don't really know what all the no-nos are. I'm just a scientist, and I'm very interested in heat therapy and whether it counts as sauna or not. I'll let you all decide sometimes. But this graph had two lines on it, and one line was all the people with severe depression who'd been given a very intense heat treatment. We're talking like 94 minutes. They'd been given a clinical fever, measured where you think. And they were it was in there the whole time too. So they were tracked. And then they had half of these people who had gotten a heat treatment that was very minimal, just gentle heating of kind of their legs and stuff. And then they measured these people's depression for 6 weeks afterward. And what you saw was pretty astounding. The people who got this single, very intense heat treatment, and I'm talking like this was like 94 minutes straight or something, and their head was not in the heat box, but their bodies were, so it was heating their body up. And the people who'd gotten this really intense heat treatment had a robust decrease in their depression, and it lasted 6 weeks. And these were people with something that might qualify as what we call treatment-resistant depression. These people had tried everything else already. And then they tried this. And this was just a short article, just very short little article with this graph. And I saw this graph, and it changed my life. And I was, at the time, studying diabetes and how do we get people to eat less sugar and how do we get them to adhere to all this stuff. I was doing totally different research. And I had reached out to the author of that study who I knew. And I said, "What's next?" And he said, "Nothing. I'm stopping." And I said, "Well, I guess I'm doing it now then, because we can't let this go." So and I also love going in the sauna. But that's kind of how mine started.
That's excellent. I feel like we need to explore that more here, in a few minutes. I think there's a story of like somebody in San Fran dropping off, the heat unit. We have to.
That's a good story.
We'll get to that. Awesome. Well, I think just along those lines, one thing that was top of mind as I was preparing for this is, you're right. I think there's this nebulous but really a key umbrella of like where is the data as it pertains to routine sauna use and health benefits, whether it's cardiovascular, brain health, sleep, mood. And I think, I've got some notes here I can reflect on, but I think I just want to toss it to my friends and colleagues here about, how do we as sauna lovers and also people that are advocating for this kind of do so mindfully and in a way that is legit and, evidence-based, instead of just saying, it cures all ills and so forth. I think we have to be careful there. So, do you guys want to offer any thoughts, or otherwise I can just I've got some notes here I can reference to at a high level, whether it's cardiovascular, cancer risk, mood, sleep. Yeah.
Do you want to do it?
Maybe I'll just kind of give some summaries and then we can just fill in gaps. So, one of the first things that comes to mind is the cardiovascular health. And we have to keep in mind most of the data here is from Finland, mostly men with frequent sauna use. And we know there that, there's a 50 to 60% reduction in fatal heart disease, sudden cardiac death. Again, this is sustained regular use in a fairly niche population. Like this, I think, needs more replication as time goes on. We know from those studies that blood pressure, vascular function, can be improved and also even sometimes mimic the benefits of exercise. And as it pertains to brain health, and something that's, I think, been top of mind these days as in our aging population is Alzheimer's risk. And I think, again, more data here is needed from a mechanistic factor. We've been able to show that there are certain pathways and hormones that are certainly improved with routine use. Now, how do those ultimately affect downstream effects of getting Alzheimer's or getting through it, I think remains to be seen. I'll comment on, exercise recovery for those of you that, have a sauna in your gym, either at home or at the gym, and this is part of your routine. I think, again, the timing and sequence matters, and we can dive into that maybe later today with Eric and Ashley. But we know that muscle soreness, I think we've all felt the joint pain, relaxation can all be helped. I think more importantly, and the kind of where this conversation maybe goes, is the stress reduction in mental health. Like, I'm most excited for what the future holds here. We know that, anecdotally, we can all probably say, what part of the reason we do this is because we feel better, and most of it's probably above our necks, right? When we do this, whether it's anxiety, depression, sleep, the endorphins, the stillness that come with that. And then finally, and maybe Brendan can comment on this too a little bit, but respiratory health. I've wondered with, asthma, allergies, bronchitis, how does the heat and steam impact things, particularly in the cold, dark winter months of Minnesota, Montana, over time? I think there's more that can be studied there. I'll pause here and just kind of see if any of you all want to add anything. Do you have any thoughts on the sort of ENT sinus component of sauna?
The things that I've read that support respiratory health for it, mostly it's in pneumonia reduction and basically through bronchial dilation. So when you take an inhaler for asthma, for example, albuterol, it opens the bronchioles. So basically it decreases resistance to airflow, which increases your ventilation into your alveoli, so the little air sacs in your lungs. So studies have shown that sauna use increases your key measures of respiration, like forced vital capacity and other measures that essentially are just showing you're using more of your lung with sauna. So there was a research group in Harvard. I mentioned this in the podcast, but an ENT group under a guy named Ben Blyer, and they studied the effect of cold on local immune factors within the nasal and sinus cavity. And essentially you have a local innate immune response within the nose that gets inhibited by cold air. So you essentially are more at risk for the implantation from viruses with cold air because your local immunity is suppressed. This hasn't been proven, but it seems to make sense that if you're exposed to viruses throughout the day and you're sort of waiting to get infected, you're exposing that routinely to warm air. You're essentially eradicating that virus from the respiratory system. So it'd be the same as we tell our patients to use saline nasal irrigations daily for infection prevention for sinus disease. I mean, it's the same kind of maintenance essentially. So it's like a neti pot. So, but yeah. So I know it's super interesting, but it's in my field. So yeah. I see the eyes glaze over. Yeah.
LVOI, yes. Brittany, do you want to maybe speak? Yeah, go ahead.
I'll add, I think, I am not a sauna or heat researcher, right? So like my perspective comes from cancer care. And I think sauna does not cure cancer. So let me be very clear. If you need cancer care, you need to go to a doctor and be seen and get taken care of. And I think we need to be really careful with the studies that we use about sauna and health. Because I think it's easy to take claims from a study and overgeneralize them to the general population. So what I mean by this, for example, is I think a lot of the data, as you pointed out, comes out from this Kuopio ischemic health study. This is a large study in Finland. It's a cohort study, which means that they kind of follow a cohort of people across time. It's a bunch of men in Eastern Finland who are middle-aged. So as you can see, it already only is really talking about a certain segment of the population in a very specific part of the world. And what they're doing is they're doing surveys over time on sauna use, frequency of sauna use, how long they're using the sauna, and having people kind of remember back, and then looking at a variety of health conditions otherwise as well. So there's limitations to that sort of work. It's really important work, and I actually think some of the most robust studies about sauna come out of that cohort study. But just remember that it really only applies to that population of people, and that there's a lot of biases in what people remember, and that, for example, maybe people who sauna more, there's also confounding factors. So it's people who have access to sauna. It's people who maybe have higher socioeconomic status. There's a lot of confounding pieces when we're talking about this data. So I say this as someone who loves sauna with my whole heart, wants to introduce people to it, personally has experienced a lot of positive effects of sauna. I want everyone to love it. And I want us to just be careful with the data and how we understand it and how we apply it.
But I find it was interesting from the cardiovascular studies, though, that like the frequency of use had kind of like almost a linear relationship to decrease cardiovascular risk.
Yeah, there's like a dose effect, maybe.
Right.
And temperature too, right? Like higher temps versus lower?
Yeah, I don't remember the temperature thing, but...
Well, okay.
Let's hear it.
As someone who also loves sauna, my partner built one in our yard. I don't know if he's in here, but I love it too. But Eric is in here. He's published more on those men than I think anybody. Well, with Yari, but that was so many important words here. That was a cohort study. If all of those Finnish men back in the 1980s, if they'd taken all those men and said, all right, guys, half of you are going to sauna and half of you aren't, and we're going to watch you over time and compare you, those data would be much stronger than they were. But those were, as people mentioned, men who opted to sauna, who had the resources to sauna, who had enough time in their day. They weren't busy working 3 jobs, so they had time to sauna, right? There's a lot of factors that we have to take into account when we look at studies like that. A much stronger design is something called a randomized controlled trial. I'm not biased, but it is what I do. And when I get people in the lab, I recruit all of them, and then I randomize half of them to get one thing and half of them to get a different thing, so that we can compare what the actual outcomes were. And the nice thing about sauna that is, in many ways, there are a growing number of what we call cohort studies or epidemiological studies where they just follow the same people over time. And once you get a critical mass of those, that's something of an indication that there's a signal here. And that means that we need to start doing more rigorous designs with it. The problem is, if I start a randomized controlled trial right now for Alzheimer's, I've got a long time to wait to see who gets Alzheimer's, right? The odds of that happening in our lifetime, not so much. So it's just really important also to remember when you look at a scientific article, there's all these different parts of the article. There's the abstract, which is the summary of the article. The introduction, where the authors describe what they're going to do. The methods, when they actually describe what they did. The results section that they got, and the discussion. And when you're a journalist and you're writing a newspaper article for, I'm not going to name newspapers, but insert newspaper here. Those journalists generally look at the abstract, which is the summary, and they look at the discussion, which is the authors speculating and making their hypothesis, generating statements, and kind of riffing off of what the results were. Most journalists don't necessarily know how to read those results sections and understand the size of the effects that they're looking at. So when I see a headline, when you see a headline, just smile and think, okay, that's interesting. But you have to actually look at the study to know what's going on. And my big concern with sauna is that people get really excited. And I'm excited too. But we have to speak only on the data. Because when we start going off, then we become like every other strange, niche health practice. And we don't want to be, right? So.
Well said. Maybe we can piggyback off of that to a question I think Glenn and I have chatted on before. If any of you had unlimited funds and a robust, scientific team, what would that ideal sauna study seek to explore and discover? I'm going to go back to Ashley with this one.
Well, we're on April 1st, we were supposed to start a $1.2 million trial with Harvard, Cleveland Clinic, and UCSF, a multi-center trial looking at heat treatment for depression because our first results were so promising. That is currently in limbo, and we hope it will come through, but we don't know. If I had unlimited funds, I would probably build a proper heat treatment lab. I wouldn't say I have a proper heat treatment lab right now because it's extremely expensive to do in a hospital. I've been on a 1-year adventure to figure out plumbing for a cold plunge, and I've gotten nowhere because it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars to build. But I'd probably build the right place to actually do the research. But of course, I like randomized controlled trials, and I'm very interested in depression. So I would probably pick something small and stick with something small for a big, and then try and get it all the way to the finish line so that insurance will cover it.
Yeah.
And that's a very expensive thing to do without government grants. And that's why we were on that road until January 24th.
Cross our fingers on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brittany, thoughts?
Oh, yes. I have so many. I would love to do a study with sauna. Again, my research is primarily qualitative. It's in adolescents and young adults with cancer survivorship. So I would love to do a study looking at kind of the quality of life, mental health, and social benefits of sauna, particularly in young adult cancer survivors. So I'd love to take young adults with cancer, similar experience that can be really, really isolating in survivorship, or folks with, metastatic disease, and that's what they're living with, and set up a sauna every week. And these people are going to be coming together, and there's not going to be an agenda of what to do. You introduce them to sauna, how to do it safely together. You create a space for people to connect with each other. Sauna is super egalitarian, so you're all sitting on a bench sweating in your swimsuit together, and you can just be. And I think, we would look at quality of life surveys, sleep surveys, mental health, and pain. I think that's another important one, kind of before and after some sort of like real life intervention, and also get qualitative experiences of people and what did that mean to them, and what did it bring to them.
Thank you. Brennan?
I'm not a researcher. I'm not like the line of smartness stops.
It's on the side.
Well, yeah, it's like skips over. Like a lot of the disease that I deal with is like either local or systemic inflammation. Like sinus disease in general, chronic sinusitis is a systemic disease with local expression. But I deal with a lot of patients that have manifestations of migraine, which is an interesting disease because it's really like a neurological storm within the trigeminal nerve. So I see a lot of patients with, migraine-related dizziness and hearing loss and facial pain and all of that. So I think there is, to make a study, I don't know how do you do a randomized controlled trial of heat, because obviously people know they're not going to be getting heat. So,
Well, you can give them something else.
okay.
And so you generally can create what's called a credible sham. So something where it's either, if you think that heat is the missing ingredient and it's not everything else, you could put a whole bunch of people in a sauna that's off and be like, hey guys, hang out. If you think that it's
You're
the
getting
heat,
infrared.
right? What?
You're getting infrared.
Well, that's a whole nother discussion. But you can give them you can. There's a study. There was a great study, the Naumann 2017 study, where they gave people hyperthermic baths. They either gave them like hot tubs, or they gave them what they called like green light therapy. And they were like, look, green light's a promising therapy. Da, 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 So each group got something that they were willing to do.
Yeah.
And as long as the main ingredient is different, that's the key thing, if the mechanism you want to look at.
Yeah, I think a properly designed study would be really interesting. There's, those diseases that we all deal with. They're debilitating in various different ways. If it's not life-altering cancer, it's daily debilitating migraine disease, or, yearly, 6 months out of the year dealing with sinus disease. So, but yeah, I think there's a lot to be gained from something that doesn't involve drugs, that doesn't involve expensive medications and regimens and doctor visits and everything. I don't want to put myself out of business, but
Yeah.
At the same time, would be nice to actually have something that's more preventative than, reactionary.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
How about for you?
Yeah. If I had unlimited funds, it would be to have kitchens in all the clinics that I lead, so we could teach people how to cook. So there's that. But pairing that with, one of the big things is I see is people that struggle with emotional eating. Snacking, eating when there's not the true ghrelin growl to seek food, and that's a huge struggle for many of us, right? Particularly if there's a downstream consequence of metabolic illness, obesity, diabetes. I find, and anecdotally many of my patients do, that sauna is a great alternative for the habituated, hardwired snacking behaviors that usually are rooted in like anxiety, loneliness, depression, and we've over decades learned to cope with those foods, which temporarily make us happy and satisfied, but then leave us just wanting more. We know it's hard to eat in a sauna. It's probably uncomfortable and hopefully doesn't happen. But similarly, afterwards, I also find that it's kind of one of the last things I think about. And I oftentimes recommend it for patients that are looking to add a fasting regimen to their routine, or looking as if they have access to it, as a tool to interchange for the snack that is always top of mind. So having access to that wouldn't really be a study, but more just a tool for more people. So, yeah. Glenn, how are we doing on time? Are we hard stop at 10:45 or?
Let's see. It's 10:35 now. We got about 10 minutes.
10 more, okay. I do want to toss this one out there, and then maybe we'll open up for Q&A. So, question for us all. Is there solid evidence for detoxification through sweating, or is this a wellness myth? I have some thoughts, but I'll just kind of open it up. Yeah.
I have thoughts.
Go for it.
So right now, one of the areas of research in my lab is that we're recruiting firefighters, and we're bringing them into the lab, and we're actually measuring their sweat, their urine, and their blood to see what's in it, and before they sauna, while they sauna, and after they sauna. And yes, we did design a control sweat condition, so we have them sit there with purified water on their arms and do this thing to see what's in that sweat, and then we collect their sweat during the heat treatment as well. And there's a very big difference. There's a very big difference between measuring whether a toxin is present in someone's sweat and measuring whether it is meaningfully excreted in their sweat. Okay? So we can look at the drug testing literature, right? And in some of the drug testing literature, you can see, I don't remember which drug it is, so I'm not going to name it, but it's an illicit drug. They can actually swab someone's skin and figure out have they been using, right? Great, so we can detect it there, but does that mean they're meaningfully excreting it through their skin? No. So we need to figure out where that line is. And I actually, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but sweating is, the primary purpose of sweating is to cool our bodies down. That's why we do it, right? the primary purpose is not detoxification. If you want to talk about detoxification, we need to talk about your kidney and your liver. That's what those organs are doing. Okay. And so my actual hypothesis with this is that when you go in some sort of heat treatment, you start drinking more fluids, right? So you're actually excreting more fluids through sweat and arguably through urine as well. So I actually think we're going to see the most in people's pee from sauning, not their sweat. And if I had $1 bazillion, I bet we'd see it in their poop, and that's what I would be measuring. Because that's where I think the real action is happening. And unfortunately, you can't have people poop on command after a sauna, but you can make most firefighters pee on command after a sauna. So we are actively studying that. We have a study going on now that is partially donor funded, partially company funded, and hopefully we'll have those results soon. But it is tricky to do research with firefighters. They're an interesting bunch, and I'd say that the jury is still out. And when people start talking about sauna for detox, as the person studying it, I shake my head. I'm like, still waiting for the data, guys. Let's not screw this up for us, right? Let's do this right.
You don't need sauna to detox your body. You need your kidneys and you need your functioning liver and you need to drink water.
Functioning liver is key.
Yeah.
Don't drink too much alcohol.
Yeah, be careful about what you're putting in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Glenn, should we Q&A it?
Yeah, this is great. So we have about 10 minutes, and we're going to go a little beyond just because I can do that. I want to get to as many questions as we can. So let's keep the questions short, right? And if you want to direct them to a particular doctor who saunas, please do, or just for the group is fine as well. Let's start with Alan. I see Alan's hand go up. Alan, why don't you introduce where you came from to come to Sauna Days and your question for the group.
Don't give up the microphone. No, I won't hold it for that long. My name's Alan. My name's Alan. I'm from Kivia Sauna, and one of the things I do is I have a podcast like Glenn. Different vibe, different feel, but we cover a lot of the important subjects. So I get into some of the details, some of the medical stuff, and I'm really interested in Ashley and your stuff with the detoxification, because it's one of those myths or misunderstandings that the industry is having. Unknowns. So my main question is there is some discussion that actual lack of hydration can affect the ability to detoxify through your liver and kidney. That's why it's so important to hydrate. That if you're not drinking enough water during sauna, you don't have that water to create urine to remove those toxins. Any thoughts on that?
There's a multifaceted, there's a lot of parts to that. So yes, you need to drink enough water in order for fluid to be moving through your, I'm going to defer to you on this one. There's a lot, you have to drink a lot of water to get enough moving through your kidneys to move anything out.
Yeah, so basically, if you're in a sauna and you're losing all of your fluid through your skin because you have to sweat it all out, that means you're going to have less fluid in your body, in your vessels that are supplying your kidneys in order to make the urine. So you just don't want to get dehydrated, or those other processes aren't going to work.
And the time course matters, right? The moment you drink water isn't the moment that you're necessarily rehydrated. Also, the osmolarity of the fluid that you're drinking matters. Can it go into your cells? What is the osmolarity of what you're drinking? Is it Gatorade? Is it Noon? Is it LMNT? Like, what are we drinking? So, what?
Coors Light.
I'm drinking Coors Light. Good Lord. We could be. Right? So this is a big fat, it depends, but I think everyone would agree that you should be drinking enough fluid. Probably, I mean, Coors Light's kind of like, I don't know, my partner calls that like mildly spiked bubbly water, but if you're drinking a vodka cocktail, not good. So I think, yes, you want to be focusing on hydration, but I think that I'd be thinking about that more for your kidney than your liver in that moment.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Just quickly to add, we should then emphasize
Early hydration?
Right.
How soon before sauna?
Tomorrow, or yesterday.
That's a tricky part. So we've learned we've kind of developed protocols for this in our lab based on people's self-report of headaches. And we've discovered that when people don't come in for their heat treatment with enough fluid on board, they're way more likely to get a headache. So we've started sending people home with electrolyte tablets, and we ask them to drink them 1 to 2 hours before our heat treatment. Our heat treatment is so intense. I mean, people can be in the box for like up to 140 minutes. It's a long time with no break. So in general, if you're eating a normal, diverse, healthy diet, you probably do not need to be supplementing with electrolytes before you go in the sauna, but I'm going to defer.
I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I think most people who have been sauning much of their lives just
Don't.
try to make sure you stay hydrated and bring water. You know, try not to go in super dehydrated and listen to your body, I think, is a really important key thing. I think some people are really into following rules about sauna, and you have to
Don't do that.
Like, I think that's like kind of sometimes a mistake people make by being too into how they have to do it. And I think really listening to your body, listening to those headaches, listening to days that maybe you can't take as much heat and it's better for you to go shorter, cooling off. Yeah.
Right on. Thank you. Next question.
Hey, my name's Colin. I take 2 packets of Element across 64 ounces of water in about 2 hours in advance of sauna. The second packet's about half before and half after. My question is 176 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 minutes, 4 times a week. Andrew Huberman, number of health experts out there kind of say that's the baseline for reducing all-cause mortality by 40%. What do you all agree on as far as like sauna usage, temperature, and what are some of the big things you can eliminate in your life?
Can we talk about what a correlation is and a causation is with this one for a second? So the study that all of the health experts are referencing here is a study from, where's Eric? Is he in here?
He's sleeping.
Oh, okay. Is this probably out there? Study from the 80s. And basically what they found is the people who did that tended to also have less of all of these other diseases. Now, those people self-selected. So this could totally be a correlation. You cannot assume causation from correlational data. You can't do that unless you do Mendelian resume, unless you do some fancy statistical stuff. But I also am not sure I'm buying the whole like accurate temperature measurement thing in the 1980s. I mean, where are you putting the thermometer in the sauna? Like, what? I think, and to your Element thing, by the way, you must not be salt sensitive and must not have a blood pressure problem, because there's a lot of people who would do that out there, and that would probably not be a good thing for them to do before the sauna. So I wouldn't advertise. I'm not suggesting that or endorsing that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like the whole electrolyte replacement thing, I mean, being a fad, but I feel like that you don't really have to replace electrolytes until you're like hour, 2.5 of like an endurance sport.
The only reason we have to do it is because we've got people in the box for 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah. And so we actually measured some stuff and figured out we do have to do this.
Yeah, I mean, and the whole electrolyte thing was just a market-based push to strike fear in people about the fact that they weren't getting enough electrolytes.
But your question is, do I need to do this 4 times a week? I don't know.
You all agree on for kind of the standard reduction of all-cause mortality, like as far as frequency, heat.
For the standard reduction of all-cause mortality.
I don't think we have that.
I'm going to be bold and just say I think that you should do what you can do comfortably without getting sick, like pushing yourself too hard, that works in your routine, that works in your life, that also goes with not smoking, minimizing alcohol, all the things that you think I'm about to list.
Right on. Well said. Okay, we'll keep it moving, unless anyone's got a quick comment.
Let's get the panel agreement.
Please.
Or not.
No, 100%. I honestly don't think we have that data, or can say confidently that there is a specific protocol to reduce mortality in 2025. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we got a lot of hands up. Let's try to quick question. Where are you from?
Calgary, Alberta. and I own Sauna Builder. I field a lot of questions when someone calls us and they're interested in sauna. The first question we ask is, why do you want a sauna? And I would say it's reduction in stress and health benefits. So I'm left speaking to the health benefits of sauna. To answer that question responsibly, if you could summarize, like maybe in a minute, like what would you say to someone that is, they're interested in sauna for health benefits? Most of the time, if they're interested in infrared, they think it's because infrared is what provides the biggest health benefit. But in general, for us in the industry to answer that question responsibly, what would be your response to, okay, well, we know this about sauna?
Ashley, you want to stab at that one?
So we know that in a lot of different types of studies, different types of heat treatments have had different types of health benefits. And can I have more than 1 minute?
Please.
Okay.
You came a long way, Ashley.
I did. All right. So my overall hypothesis, like I talked about this in a talk I gave that you can actually find on the internet if you just Google brain mind Ashley Mason, you'll see this. But my overarching hypothesis is that we have edited meaningful thermal stress out of our lives. We are sitting in a room that is probably heated, right? In the summer, we sit in rooms that are probably air conditioned. This is not how we evolved, right? We evolved to be exposed to extreme temperatures throughout the days, right? And now we're sitting in these little boxes and we're pretty much not thermally stressed at all. So I think that heat treatments actually give us a meaningful dose of thermal stress. You've all heard the term use it or lose it, right? If you go to the gym and you do bicep curls, eventually you will have some stronger biceps. And if we are not using our thermoregulatory system to putting it under actual stress sometimes, we might be losing it a little bit. And that's what we see in people with depression. They tend to run hot. So people with depression are actually hotter than people without depression in many cases. And I published a study where we showed this in 21,000 people who were wearing temperature measurement rings like this one, right? And ironically, putting them in a sauna actually causes them to cool down. Because what do we do in the sauna? We sweat, right? So we're actually cooling people down in the days after that they're exposed to a kind of heat stressor. So what I would tell your clients is that, look, this is a type of stressor that we've removed from our lives in most cases. And this is actually a pleasant way to engage with it with other people in your life that may have a whole bunch of different health benefits. If you tried to tell me, okay, can you describe the health benefits of exercise? This would take us for a long time, right? Not only weight maintenance, but we know for reducing cancer risk, it does all kinds of things. And so having a healthy thermoregulatory system in your body probably does all kinds of things. So my work in sleep, right? We know that your body temperature is coolest during the night and warmest during the day. You've all heard the term circadian rhythm, right? Just think the circadian temperature rhythm. It's lowest during the night, warmest during the day, right? So we want to do things to strengthen our circadian rhythm every way that we can. And having thermoregulatory flexibility is probably pretty important for that. So I don't know, that's a lot to say to a potential sauna buyer, but I'd probably just say, look, your thermoregulatory health, this is working out your system.
Just tell your paleo clients they're getting back to their paleo roots.
Oh. There you go. Yeah. Thank you. That was a great question. We cool? Keep moving?
I'll just add one thing to that. The way I kind of phrase this is that it's probably a very valuable complement to the foundations of an optimal lifestyle. Like the chairs most of us are sitting on, the way that our clinics here at Essentia are built upon are the 4 pillars of wellness. So number 1, eating mostly real food that's unprocessed, low in sugar, low in grains and refined seed oils. 2, getting adequate sleep, not just quality, but quantity. More on that later today, perhaps, Ashley?
Sure.
Awesome. 3, exercise, movement, both resistance training and some cardiovascular activity. And then 4, mental health and wellness. And this can be that very valuable 5th complement to those foundations. So.
Cool. Good, Andrew? Yeah. Right. Thank you. And we're over time, but what the hell? Let's just do a couple more. This is... Introduce where you're from.
So I'm Jeremy from San Antonio. We have a facility where, is that too much?
Hey, I never give up the microphone. I learned that from Alan just a few minutes ago.
We have a facility where we're working with a researcher from a local university, and they're using our facility to do that research. What are the challenges with doing that, and is there a way we can leverage, that investment cost that you're talking about through saunas that are in the community?
Yeah, so that's great. Thank you for doing that, because it is hard to get those resources to do that kind of research at the university. Generally, the challenges are the really boring ones. So the Institutional Review Board has to approve all of our research, right? There's certain safety parameters that have to be met when things are done off of hospital grounds. There's rules about privacy, compliance. It's basically a lot of red tape and paperwork. And then it also comes down to, if you're trying to do pediatric research, peace be with you, that is a whole bunch of different paperwork that I don't even try to do. But as long as people can consent for themselves, 18 and up, it's a different thing. So I'd say just patience with the paperwork, but making it so that you have systems that can keep people's names off of documents is probably the best thing. So if someone's a research participant in a study, they need to be able to come to your sauna and say, okay, like my PID is 03, and you need to not need their names, their personal information, everything else. You need to be okay with the university having all of that for the way that your liability works and your insurance works and everything else. There's different types of reliances that need to be in place.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? We good? Cool. Last question. Sure.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for being here today. I'm Angela from the Twin Cities, and we're seeing a lot of saunas popping up there, steam and infrared, and infrared saunas with different colors that they promise do different benefits for the body. And I'm just curious if you've seen, heard of that, and what's the truth to that?
Ugh.
That's it. We're done.
I'm not there for the color stuff. There are some data on red light therapy, but let's not talk about it. Basically, if you go to your dermatologist and you're getting a specific red light therapy for an open wound that you have, I'm not talking about you. If you have a severe acne problem and you're getting a specific kind of red and blue light alternating contrast treatment at your dermatologist, cool. Like that's probably legit. Those things are legit. But I have no idea what to make of this like multicolor infrared room thing that is popping up all over. But I'm not here to bash infrared heat. That is a real heat source. And it is, if you are testing heat as the mechanism of what you are looking at, there is no reason to obviate that. Like, let's not poo-poo it. It's not, maybe we don't call it sauna, but it is real heat. And there are serious trials that use infrared heat, mine included, to see if the heat is a meaningful mechanism for change. But if I were a person going to look for a sauna for the day, I would not be looking for a multicolor adventure infrared room.
I think it's also really important to remember that the wellness industry is an industry. Mm-hmm. And this is like built on capitalism, and people are going to be looking for different ways to extract money from communities. And sauna is an old tradition, and there is a lot of wisdom in old traditions that are shared across cultures. And I just think that when we're entering, I think there's an amazing thing, which has been this explosion of spaces for sauna and community, especially in the Twin Cities. And I think it brings access to sauna to a lot more people. And I think that is a really, really good thing. I also think there is a wellness culture and a wellness industry that very easily invades or overlaps that space. And we just need to come with like healthy skepticism.
Well said. Yeah. Let's close it up. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you to the doctors who sauna. Thanks for participating. Yeah, this is a great. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Sauna Talk podcast. For even more content and discussion of all things sauna, visit saunatimes.com. That's where you'll find articles, resources, and the stories that keep the sauna culture moving forward. You can also connect with me, Glenn Auerbach, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Substack. If you're interested in live events, workshops, or local and regional sauna circuits, you'll find those details on the website as well. Finally, if you represent a brand aligned with authentic sauna culture and would like to explore partnership or sponsorship opportunities, I'd love to connect. Reach out through saunatimes.com and let's start the conversation. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, I'll see you on the bench.